Welcome to the Improve and Have Fun podcast. My name is Paul V. Perez, and on this podcast, I work on improving myself while having fun along the way with the hopes of encouraging you to do the same. And this is the first Throwback episode of an interview I did when the show was formerly named the PVP Show, and it's been Improve and Have Fun ever since then. This episode is with Korie Genius. He's a dancehall choreographer. He's been in Janet Jackson videos. He was recently on the Jimmy Fallon show as a dancer, and he's done so much more. This interview is about 4 years old, but for any of the aspiring choreographers out there, I think that this can be educational. And I will be having more dancers on the podcast because this is kind of the small community that I live in, and I enjoy doing these. You're getting to know faces that you've seen for years and finally sitting down and conversing with them. But let's go ahead and get into the episode. Any thoughts, comments, you can do so through all the numerous ways that I leave in the show notes for the episode, as well as ways to support this podcast, because this podcast is not free to do, but any dollars that you might go ahead and invest in any of the ways that I leave in the show notes would be fantastic. I'll also leave contact information for Korie Genius if you wish to get in contact with him, his Instagram, and his website. Let's go ahead and get into the very first Throwback episode, which there'll be more of, and let's do this. I just finished taking one of his classes. It's Korie Genius. Say what's up to the people, Korie.
What's going on? Korie Genius is here. My first podcast interview here. Ready for it, though? Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
So, Korie, definitely wanted to have you on as one of the first guests. You were one of the first and only folks who've given me an opportunity to go ahead and teach. And not only that, you've also you and Hannah and History have just been very, very nice to me all this time. I'm just a goof who just goes to parties and comes to take classes. And, it's always a good vibe at the class. And I think it speaks to today alone. You had about 40 people in the class, and you've been doing this. And, I've known you even before you were teaching almost on a daily basis, and how you've grown to that point. It's just great to have you on the podcast, definitely.
Definitely, man. Yeah, I would say having you here in class for me is like I say, it's always an honor. Reason being because when you dance, when I see you dance, it's just like life for me. Like the energy, you're always smiling, always happy, and that's kind of the vibe. When I look at dancehall, that's what I see. So that's the vibe I try to give to my students in here. Reason why
it's felt.
Of course, reason why I asked you to teach with me twice already, because they need to feel that vibe. When I go out to a party, if I had 4 or 5 of you in there, it would be the best party ever. It's the energy, man. Your energy is always good. So
I appreciate that.
That's the reason why I love having you in class, and I appreciate that you appreciate the work I'm doing. I'm trying my best, man, and I'm learning from you at the same time.
Oh, please. You're way past that. We are way past that.
Your energy, I always build off of it. I see what you do, your character. I love character when I dance, and that's it. When you dance dancehall, it's just character straight through. You're having fun.
I appreciate that.
No better way to learn, I think, than to have fun.
That's what's up.
Of course, man.
Well, Korie, this is a podcast about you, though. You know what I mean? Because we appreciate you. So Korie, I wanted to know, what is it, where are you from originally? Where were you born and raised? And what is it about that dance that you like? And that's a loaded question. But.
Okay. All right, no, definitely. So I'm a born Jamaican. I was born in Jamaica, came here when I was about 5 going on 6. I moved to Brooklyn, so I came straight from Jamaica straight to Brooklyn. For me, when I came here to Brooklyn, it was like another Jamaica, just here in New York.
Definitely.
Like I didn't really move because the entire area I was in was straight Caribbean.
At what age was that?
I was about 5 going on 6.
Okay.
So I came around about 6. Back then, of course, dance wasn't exactly something, that age, I wasn't really thinking about dance. But, coming from there and still having the culture around me here in Brooklyn, the music, everything. Remember to my mom specifically, she loved dancehall music, and she's always been listening to it, old school tracks. I won't get into that music too much, but
like I said, talk about what you want to talk about.
She used to listen to music like every day, and eventually, as time went on, she used to have these little parties here in Brooklyn. Yes, what we call bashment parties back then, basement parties. And me being my age, of course, I'm not supposed to be at these parties, but she would let me come. I would beg her, like, can I come to the parties? And my mom was really like, okay, fine.
At what age was that?
That was probably about, I'll say, 13.
That's cool.
Yeah, 13. She started letting me come to the parties. And she used to hold them like every other week. throughout the 90s, what we call area in Brooklyn. And, I started getting into dance more from then. I would listen to the music, but when I started going to those parties, I just started dancing and vibing. Back then, it wasn't much what you see me doing now. It was more just vibing and just rocking out to music.
Isn't that how it starts, right?
Of course,
yeah,
of
isn't that
course.
how it starts?
So, like, building from then, I just stayed with it. Throughout the years, the show came about in Brooklyn. It was called Flex in Brooklyn. So I'm skipping time right now. This is when I was in high school.
Yes.
Now, like 8th grade. I'm so bad with time. I don't remember what year that was, but about 8th grade, I was introduced to a style called flexing, which was the name of the show. But they took the name of the show and just called it the style of dancing. But the style of dancing they did on that show was called Bruck Up.
Yes.
Bruck Up is a dancehall style that was, I think, brought to light back in the 90s, if I'm correct, back in the 90s. So they were doing flexing. I saw this show and I was like, yo, this show is awesome. I want to be on the show one day. So, years passed. I was to watch the show every Friday. It was the station was called BCAT. BCAT. I think it was called Brooklyn. I can't remember the exact name of it. It was BCAT. It was Brooklyn. I'll remember in a second. But anyway, so BCAT was the name of the show. So I watched this show every Friday. It used to come on. And I used to practice. Just watch these guys dancing on there. Practice. There was 2 main groups on the show at the time. It's called Hyperactive and Suspense Crew.
Oh, yes, Suspense.
Those are the 2 crews on there. Yes. And I used to watch them. They used to go at it. I mean, weekly events. And I'm like, yo, one day I'm going to dance on this show. Again, local Brooklyn show. Time passed, skipping a little bit. Got my own group. Not mine specifically, but I joined the group. We were called back then, oh my God, what was the name of the group? Bad Company was the name of my group.
And who was in the group?
Myself, History, which is my best friend now. Yes. A lot of other dancers, I'll name one specifically. He's a dancehall dancer now. His name is Bugsy British.
I know Bugsy British.
Bugsy British, of course. And a couple of other dancers. I don't talk to them much now, but it was a bunch of us.
Yes.
But we made a group together. We finally got on a showcase. This is probably...
I didn't know you had a history of Bugsy.
Yes. Bugsy was a straight flex in the beginning. It wasn't even what we're doing now. The whole shata dancing and stuff. It was straight flexing and Bruck Up style.
Yes.
So we got on the show finally. So I would look at the flexing as that what gave me my push to pursue dancing more. Like I said, I've been doing it as a kid, but
so I mean, at that time, did you have aspirations of doing something professionally, or it was just like I just want to flex and dance?
No, this was just me wanting to dance. I just love dancing. It was just like I said, it was in my culture and something I love doing.
It's in your blood, yeah?
Yes, to be honest, I wanted to play basketball. That's what I wanted to do. I used to be in the park every day playing ball, but aside from playing ball, I used to dance, a lot. But again, I wasn't looking at dances like this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, but I've always been doing it.
Yes.
But as time passed, I realized I've been spending a lot of my time doing this, and I love doing it, and I want to take it professionally. So maybe at the age of 15 or 16 is when I started thinking about, I want to do some auditions and things like that. So I started to venture out more, looking up auditions, and I used to audition weekly. So, when I say audition, it wasn't, dancehall audition. This was just dance auditions, period. I started getting more into the hip hop, started taking classes, things like that.
It takes, let me tell you that it takes courage to go ahead and go to auditions because, you have to have definitely a sack on you to go ahead because to deal with rejection at a young age like that. You know what I'm saying? To have the clarity to know that you wanted to pursue this, I think is amazing. Especially to start at such a young age. There are so many people that walk around daily that you and I both know that they have aspirations to do something and they may switch in a lifetime 10 times, and that's okay. We're not knocking those people. I'm one of those people, but. It's amazing that you knew from early.
Yes, definitely. Like I said, time went on. Age 15, I auditioned. Numerous auditions after auditions, and just trying to build and get better at what I was doing. Now, just on the dancehall aspect of it, it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't much of that. It was just I wanted to dance and further myself with the dance career.
Yes.
Although I still, practice my dancehall, I still practice my flexing style, which was called Bruck Up. Flexing, again, was the name of the show. So they named it that, but the style we were doing was Bruck Up.
Now, Korie, you're talking about the teaching.
Yes. So teaching now, that came to play, I would say, I started dancing at 15. About age 20 is when I started to venture more into the teaching aspect. Hannah, which is my group member now.
Yes.
Hannah, I met Hannah through history. History, my best friend, Kendall Hines is his real name.
Yes. And where is he performing now?
He's doing a show on Off-Broadway called Forza Bruta.
Awesome.
Definitely a great show. You guys should see it. It's called Forza Bruta is the name of the show, and his name is Kendall Hine. You can look him up, seehistory.net, and you can see more about the show.
I will link to it in the show notes of this podcast,
Yes.
and I'll also link to it on the blog post as
Definitely,
well.
definitely. So, yes, Hannah,
And you went to high school with Kendall. Like you went to high school with him, right?
I went to junior high with him.
You went to junior high.
Yeah,
with
so
him.
I did grow up with Kendall. We went to
Did
junior
you
high.
live in the neighborhood, or you only know him from high school?
It's funny because we went to junior high together, not knowing that he lived like 2 blocks over from me for the entire 8 years of knowing this. I'm not 8 years, 4 years of knowing this guy.
Yeah.
And I actually found out he was living there in I think it was either the 11th grade. I met up back with him randomly in the train station, like right where I live. I'm like, you think I live around the corner? I'm like, so. Yeah, so we split for a couple of years when we went to high school. He went to Dewey, I was in Wingate, and we met back up. But again, I met him through Hannah.
Yes.
I met Hannah through him, I apologize. Hannah was teaching at a studio in Manhattan called, at the time, Geneva. So Hannah put him on to teaching there. So
Was Hannah doing dancehall?
Hannah was doing dancehall, yes. I didn't know Hannah before this,
Yeah.
but she was doing dancehall from Sweden at the time, and she came to New York, and I believe she was teaching at this place called Geneva. She put history on. History started teaching there. I wasn't teaching. I would just take history's class, but at this time, history was a little bit more in the industry than I was. Like he was doing other things like tours, etc.
Wow. Who was he touring with?
He toured with, at that time, he was touring with Angel Feliciano,
Wow,
the movement.
That's cool, yeah.
Yes, at that specific time. So the thing is, when he used to go on tour, he used to ask me to sub for him.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so I didn't really know about dancehall classes back then. Now, this is about 10 years ago I'm talking about now. I'm 30 now, but so about 10 years ago.
The young 30, yeah. No worries.
I'm trying to keep it trying to keep it fresh. So about 10 years ago. So I didn't know much about, I didn't know about anyone teaching dancehall at the time, aside from Hannah. History took over, like I said. Hannah, I guess, eventually moved away from that studio. So when History would go on his tours, I would teach. So from what I knew, Hannah was one of the first dancehall teachers here.
Which is amazing.
Yeah,
It's amazing, like to see how many people are actually I'm over here talking. I actually should talk into the mic that way people can hear me. Like to see how many people are actually holding classes now,
right.
And how this has grown into a money-making opportunity, right. Where before it wasn't that. Before it was totally non-existent. And this is not that long ago. Right. This is maybe a decade or less.
Correct. And again, like I said, just from what I know, I didn't really know about any other teachers. I knew Hannah taught dancehall, History took over, and then I started teaching for a while. So that's what kind of pushed me into teaching more. I loved it. It was awesome. So I was like, you know what? With my auditioning, I'm going to see if I can teach a little bit on the side. A year later, I got my own teaching position at a Brooklyn studio called Brooklyn Dance Project. So that's what kind of pushed my, I used that platform to further my teaching career. Yes. And now, of course, 10 years later, I ventured out into the city, teaching here at Broadway Dance Center. I also teach at Perry Dance, and I teach kids also, but just for dancehall, Perry Dance, Broadway Dance Center, and I'm loving it. Classes are getting bigger. I know I skipped a lot, but just so I can jump through the journey. But
Korie, what I also wanted to speak to you, like being realistic as well. Like, what advice would you have for aspiring choreographers, and what advice would you say financially to aspiring choreographers? Since you've been doing this for such a long time, and 100%, you and I both know that there's people that have attended your class that a seed is dropped in their mind where I'm having so much fun in this. Why don't I teach? Right. This is happening legitimately without us even knowing it, right? So what advice, and we both know that there are people who take classes with you and they go back to their countries and teach. Like we see that all the time.
Yes.
So what advice, first of all, do you have for your 15-year-old self, knowing everything that you know now at 30? What advice would you have for your 15-year-old self? And also, financially, what advice would you have for choreographers moving forward?
Okay. I would say I would speak on those that, take my class here. For those that go back to their country, and take the knowledge that I give them here and want to further their teaching career. One thing I would say, if you're going to teach this specific style, I always say make sure you do it right. You're doing the right thing, of course, by being here, taking classes and learning. When you go back, make sure you do it right. If you want to teach something, I would say you should know what you're teaching. Like, I didn't just jump into teaching dancehall. I've been doing dancehall my whole life.
You were born into it.
I was born.
You were born into it. Yeah.
Exactly. I was born into it. So, for those that weren't born into it and want to teach it, just learn. Learn as much as you can. Learn, soak it in, and you can tell when time is right for you to teach. You don't want to jump into something you don't know much. Yeah, you're teaching people. You don't want to lead these people astray. So I would say, soak in as much as you can. Then when you feel like you're ready to teach, you should feel it. I wouldn't say when you feel, you would feel it. Don't just jump into it. Financially, I would say for teachers, if you're going to teach, if teaching is what you want to do, you really got to go for it. Don't think you can just, like myself, I teach 20 and a half classes every week.
Crazy.
I teach 20 and a half classes. I just recently, like 2 days ago, I said that number to myself and I go, really? I teach 20 and a half classes? It doesn't feel like that to me. It doesn't feel like that at all. But when I say it to someone else, they're like, are you nuts? I'm like,
there's only 7 days in a week.
Yeah, but like I said, it's a class is an hour and a half. So I'm not working from 9 to 5.
It's amazing. It's a dream for many. It's a dream for many entrepreneurially.
It's not. It's a big difference. I do teach 20 and a half classes. It does take a lot out of me, but I don't look at it like that. I just look at this as my work, what I love to do. So if you're gonna pursue teaching, and that's what you want to do, you have to go forth. It's not the easiest thing to teach, because there's three different things. There's the teaching, of course. There's if you're going to go the entertainment route, like if you want to do videos, etc., you kind of have to pick your path, which one you're going to do. At one point, I wanted to go the whole industry and music videos, but like I said, I auditioned, rejection after rejection, and it wasn't working for me. I did build a resume off of it, and I love it, but when I got into the teaching, this is what I wanted to do, so I went full force at it. Now I'm teaching 20 and a half classes. Financially, right now, I'm good. I would call
Excellent.
it. I would look at it and say, like, I'll call it the hustle, but the hustle is actually working for me.
Yes.
It doesn't even feel like much of a hustle anymore, because I settled myself and I built what I wanted for myself. With the teaching, I built my own schedule, and it's working for me. So go forth with what you're going to choose. Either you're going to go entertainment route or the teaching route. You just have to push for it. You have to stick with it.
If you are enjoying or finding value in this episode of the PvP Show, please support the show by doing any and all of your shopping through the Amazon and eBay links in the show notes of this podcast or the banners on his blog at pvpfromnj.com. Most anything you're looking for can be found on both eBay or Amazon. All support is deeply and sincerely appreciated.
So, Korie, that is actually great advice. I know entrepreneurially, one of the things that there's a podcast that I listen to, an entrepreneur podcast, where he uses basically what this guy says, his name is John Lee Dumas, and he always talks about, if you're going to choose something, go 1 inch wide and 1 mile deep.
Okay.
And that's what you did in terms of only teaching. As you saw with dancing, there's all these other routes, but you only chose to do teaching, where you just kind of decided, I'm going to get just really, really good at this and excel. Now, I think that's fantastic. You focused and you're having success. Another question that I wanted to ask you, Korie, is at what point is I can leave my job to teach full time? What was that breaking point? I'm not asking for figures. Right. Okay, look, I'm working a job on the side just so I can live, but now I'm teaching. And at what point was the place where you can leave your job and just teach full time?
Okay, for me specifically.
Yes.
So yes, of course. Like I said, I wasn't teaching my whole life. I was working regular jobs. I worked plenty of regular jobs. I could name a few. I'll go from KFC to I worked on elevators. I worked in restaurants. I have a long resume of just normal, either 9 to 5 or whatever it may be, jobs. Even while I was teaching, I was still doing working a job actually at Pinkberry.
Okay, I think I remember that. Yes. I think I remember when you were working at Pinkberry.
I worked at Pinkberry for 6 years.
Amazing. Yeah, that's a lot.
So it started like this. I had my Brooklyn job. That was my first teaching job. and I was working at Pinkberry at that time also. So those were my 2 jobs at the time. That's when I just started Pinkberry and just started teaching dancehall from my own class, put it like that. I stuck with Pinkberry as long as I could. Like, I got to make money. Doing this one teaching.
Gotta eat.
Of course, got to eat. So I stuck with it as long as I can. Now, 6 years into it, I started teaching a little bit more, and I realized like Pinkberry just wasn't, for me, it wasn't fun. I don't know if you call it fun.
Nah, that's understood. I don't think Pinkberry was your future, dog. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It was okay when I started, but as I taught more, it was just like, why am I still doing this? And more teaching opportunities were coming in like slowly. So as I brought in more teaching opportunities, like of course I was nervous to actually leave the Pinkberry job because I'm like
Security.
Security. I wasn't working there a lot, but I was in there. It was almost to the point where if I wanted to, I could have become a manager there.
Wow.
But because I was teaching and I couldn't give them that time, my boss was like, whenever you're ready. So I could be either managing or supervising a Pinkberry right now, probably making some good money, but it's just not what I wanted to do.
Yeah, definitely.
It was definitely not what I wanted to do. So eventually I was like, I'm going to cut this. I'm just going to teach. And one thing with me, I was like, you know what? I don't want to work mornings anymore. And I was working mornings at Pinkberry. So I'm like, once I cut that, I don't work mornings anymore. So I'm going to make this schedule for myself. 6 years in, I cut it. I told my manager, I was like, yo, I'm ready to go. He was fine with it. At that time, I was teaching at least, to say, probably 15 classes.
Wow.
I was teaching at least 15 classes. So I seen that financially I was good. If I left Pinkberry, I'll be totally fine.
That's amazing.
So that was like that was the point where I realized where I could leave this job and I would still be good. And as soon as I left there, not even a couple of months out of there, I got more teaching jobs. Maybe a year in, I was teaching like 20 classes. It worked out for me, but I made sure I had that security where I know I can leave this. I'm teaching enough right now. I'm enjoying it. I love doing this. I don't like doing this. I'm going to stop. So just I would say for those, you do have to take a risk. It is a risky thing. But just before you take that risk, just make sure you have some kind of security. That's how I look at it. Some people take risk without security, which is fine. In the dance world, you got to take a lot of risk. You take risk almost every day when you're dealing with entertainment, etc. If you want to go do a gig to skip this, you got to make a decision. It's a risk all the time. That was my risk.
And Korie, can I ask, when you went ahead and you went full-time teaching from the class, did you actually have some kind of savings, or you just were in a sense where I'm having already enough, I'm making enough money teaching, so I can leave Pinkberry?
So at that time, when I did leave Pinkberry, that's when I just actually really started. So, I wasn't really the smartest in the beginning, with saving-wise,
Let me tell you something, Korie, this conversation is going to help a lot of people, and I think you're discussing these things. Mm-hmm. It can help anyone who wants to go from the point of, leaving their full-time to going ahead and doing this other thing. So this is incredible stuff, so please continue.
No, definitely. So, when I did leave Pinkberry, at that time, I wasn't exactly saving yet.
Yes.
That was my idea. I wanted to, for me, I feel like it was hard for me to save. It wasn't hard. It was just me being stubborn. But with the help of a friend of mine, I would say her name is Liz.
Yes.
She kind of taught me the ropes on, how to budget, basically. So I had this friend that was working with me. Worked with me 20 minutes. Because I was very stubborn. I can't save. I got to buy this. I'm going to do that. So she worked with me on this, and I left Pinkberry, and I started saving very slow.
Yes.
And in my head, at that time, teaching about 15 classes, in my head, I was like, every year I need to up what I make. I know I'm just teaching now, but whatever I do throughout the year, by the time next year, I should be making more. And I want to save more. So that's kind of what I did. So for the last 3 years, I would say, I've been upping that. So every year, I try to add on more to what I save. I save as much as I can. My goal, what I do, I'll give a number. I try to save $1,000 a month. That's my thing.
That's great. Yeah.
Not the easiest thing for everybody.
Now, Korie, do you live at home? Do you have your own place, or?
So at this time, I was living at home.
Yes.
But I was paying bills also. I'm living. My mom owned a house.
Yes.
And I had a renovated basement, so I was living there. And of course, I'm helping my mom.
Of course.
Now I don't. I live on my own now.
Wow, that's awesome.
You know, so
let me tell you, like, I think when you're working for yourself, the milestones are like if you can have your own place,
Right.
and you can actually afford having a girlfriend.
Exactly.
Those are milestones, and you're working for yourself. It's
Right.
true. It's true because,
That is
like, you know, you can. Those are milestones. I'm sorry. Continue.
So yeah, so
It's true, though. I really think
no,
it's
it's definitely. You're definitely
I'm
right.
just, you know, you're working for yourself, and you have a girlfriend. You're like, damn, you doing all right? No,
Correct,
yeah.
correct. So yeah, so like I said, for the last
But
three,
that's a milestone. That's a big milestone.
definitely, man. So and this was recently. I recently moved out. I've been out of my, I call my mother's place for the last 6 months now.
How's that feel?
Oh, it feels great. Feels great. And I'm also in Brooklyn, where I grew up.
Of course.
And it's easy for me to get around. So in moving out of my mom's house, which was in Queens, and it was like a hassle for me getting around to work and teaching and doing all that I do. It was very hard. I was very deep in Queens. But now that I live in Brooklyn, it cuts all that in half. So it's like, yes, I'm out of
You're
there.
in the bedrock of everything kind of happens.
Tell me about it. So, 3 years I've been saving now, and it's like I said, it's steady. Each year, what I do, I set my goal. I need to make more each year. I do my taxes.
Yeah.
I see where I'm at. I'm like, yes, I hit my mark. So that's my thing. Like to do that, of course, you have to, add on to what you're doing. This stuff. I'm teaching 20 classes right now.
Yes.
I have to find a way where if I want to make more money, I need to find something that can push that. Either me teaching 20 classes I thought I get a raise, or I teach more classes. So you have to
Or you
choose.
find another way kind of to monetize, something else that you can
Exactly,
use to
other things
make
you
money.
can. Correct. Like myself, I bought a camera. I bought the camera for myself to record my own videos. Camera's very expensive, but I'm like, why not learn how to use this camera?
My friend, I hope that. Well, I was thinking, you're saying that. I honestly was thinking this the other day.
Right.
Like, I hope you're monetizing those videos. You know that on YouTube you can set the ads so that it can make money with YouTube ads.
Oh, see?
And all those videos you have, you could go ahead and
Listen.
and you can make money on those. I'm serious.
I'm
you know?
gonna look into that.
Yeah,
but
yeah. It's another way to make money for sure.
Definitely, so even my the camera, as I'm learning how to use it, I offer shoots to people.
Yes.
At in the beginning, I did a lot of free shoots, but now I offer really cheap shoots to people just to make that little side. So even little things like that, as I'm doing my regular work, my teaching, adds on to my to my savings, to my how do you say it? What's the word?
It's up to the pot. It is up to the pot. It makes the pot bigger.
So small things on the side. So I call it side job, side work.
Yes.
It's my side work. Or my side hustle is how I say it.
That's totally understood.
And like I said, so that's what I do to kind of like up my, my, what's the word? You just said the word
Oh, the
too.
pot.
The
You're
pot.
sweetening the pot.
To up my pot every year. Put it like that.
So, Korie, that was fantastic information. And like I said, I think that this is going to help a lot of people. It really will, in terms of entrepreneurially, and also for anyone who's an aspiring choreographer, because you went from not doing this to doing this full time. And I think that that's encouraging. Like, I myself went full time for a period of time, failed. I had to go back to work. But it's a future aspiration, doing this my own thing that I'm doing on the side. So in closing, Korie, like, where is it that you want to be like in 5 years? Or what is it that you want to do 10 years? Like, what are some projects that if you don't feel comfortable talking about now, you don't have to. But any projects that you feel that you really, something that you want to delve into, something that you want to explore moving down the road?
So, a couple of things. So my goal right now, like I said, I know I don't expect to be teaching my entire life. This is what I do right now, but I know there's some bigger teachers now, they still teach at their age and they're doing great at it. But for me, I feel like I need another security. I have my teaching. I physically work every day. My body, I don't know how.
No, the body takes a toll over time. Yeah.
So with my saving, my idea right now, I'm actually looking to get into real estate.
That's amazing.
I want to buy property. So that's kind of like my assurance, if you want to call it that. That's what I'm looking at to do right now. I'm looking into real estate. I want to get a place. I want to rent it out. And put it like this, I want to make funds while I'm sleeping.
Of course, you want to make. It's called passive income.
Passive income.
You want to make income when you sleep. The income's still coming in.
Exactly. So that's my goal. So that's like one of my
goals.
Yeah, one of my goals. It's short term and long term. Because if it happened now, I'll be happy. But I'm taking my time into it. On the dancing aspect, I would like to travel a little bit more and teach.
Yes, definitely.
At the moment, I don't, just because I'm doing a lot here, but I'm definitely setting myself up where I can do a little bit of traveling and teach. And we have other dancers here that's doing that now, and I would love to experience that also. So those are like my two main goals and things I want to do for the future. Definitely in the future, I see myself owning my own place, owning property. Of course, I want to teach as long as I could. As long as I can teach these 2 feet.
Oh, you love doing it, yeah.
As long as these 2 feet are moving, I'm going to teach.
The desire is there to do so, yeah.
So that I would say that's my long-term goal, to have my property, to be hopefully continue teaching, maybe if not as much, just still doing what I can with teaching, inspiring people. That's where I see myself in the future. That's my long-term, I say.
Korie, as always, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. Now, Korie, is there like a website, or is there Facebook? Is there Twitter? Where can people reach you? And I will link to all that in the show notes as well.
Of course, definitely. You can look me up at www.koriegenius.com, my full name. On there, you can find my Twitter, etc. But I'll give it to you anyway. My Facebook is Facebook/Korie Genius. Twitter/Genius Dance, and also Instagram/Genius Dance. But yeah, definitely look me up on my website. Some interview. Thank you, PvP.
Thank you, brother. Yeah.